I've got a question for you. When was the last time you actually tasted your food? Not while scrolling on your phone, not while standing at the kitchen counter, not while driving, not while mentally writing tomorrow's to-do list. I mean, really tasted it. If you're like most of us, eating has become something we do while we're doing everything else. And today, I want to introduce you to one simple practice that has the power to transform not only your meals, but the pace of your life. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Body and Belonging, where we break free from food guilt, calm down the food noise, and rediscover joy at the table. I'm Jamie, a registered dietitian, and each week we explore the deeper reasons why we struggle with food and why we have such a hard time feeling like we belong in our bodies. I blend gentle nutrition with nervous system awareness, and I teach you biblically rooted health principles to move you away from dieting and restriction and into care and nourishment. So grab a seat at the table and let's dive in. This week, we are in part 3 of our Body and Belonging Reset series, a series on mindful eating and intuitive eating, and I think this is my favorite part. Last week, we talked about rebuilding trust with your body's hunger signals, and today we're taking the next step. Once you notice your body's signals, how do you actually respond? The answer isn't another meal plan, it's presence. One of the things I notice most with clients isn't that they don't know what to eat. It's that they're rarely present while they're eating. Breakfast happens while packing lunches. Lunch happens at their desk over emails. Dinner happens while refereeing sibling arguments or begging the toddler to try a new veggie. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, food becomes just fuel instead of something to experience. Food as fuel is a fine concept, but it falls short, especially if eating is feeling unsatisfying. Your body showed up to the meal, but your mind never did. So I've taught mindful eating for many years. One of my favorite things to do is to go into classrooms and teach this with kids. I'll give them a single cracker or a piece of chocolate or almonds, just a single piece of something, and have them tune into all 5 senses. And it's almost humorous. We'll say, oh, is it making any noise? What does it smell like? Oh, take a bite, put it in your mouth, but don't chew it yet. Oh, now take a bite. Did you hear that? What sound is it making? What are you smelling? What are you hearing as you eat it? And it's a exercise in presence because so much of our life is so far away from presence that sometimes we need to swing the pendulum way to the other side to try to find a healthy middle ground. Another way I've used the mindful eating practice is at women's retreats, and we'll put out some special desserts and we'll talk about mindfulness and we'll experience those together without guilt. I love that exercise. Not because I think you should inspect every blueberry for the rest of your life. Like I said, it's the other end of the pendulum, and it's that way for a reason. Because sometimes we have to exaggerate awareness before we can find a healthy middle ground. Mindfulness isn't obsessing, it isn't overthinking, it isn't turning every meal into homework. It's simply paying attention on purpose. And like I told you last time, it's noticing without judging. One thing I've come to appreciate even more over the years is that food isn't just nutrition. It's one of God's gifts. He could have made eating purely functional. He didn't have to give us taste buds. And instead, he gave us different flavors, different textures. He gave us sweetness. He gave us crunch, warm bread, fresh berries in the summer, the smell of chili simmering on the stove, the sound of popcorn being popped during family movie night. He gave us taste buds, color, texture. Enjoyment wasn't an accident. It was part of the design. And here's something fascinating. When we slow down enough to notice our meal, we often begin noticing ourselves. We recognize we're actually tired or lonely or anxious or celebrating or already satisfied. Presence doesn't just reconnect us with our food. It tunes us into our own hearts. And that's one reason mindful eating is so powerful. Not because it magically fixes overeating, but it helps us listen so we can respond instead of react. So, in this week ahead, I actually want to invite you to do this mindful eating exercise. Choose an ordinary food, maybe an apple or a strawberry, a square of dark chocolate or a cup of tea. Notice what you see. Notice what you smell. Notice the texture. Notice the sounds. Notice the flavors. And then notice something even more important. What happens inside of you when you slow down? You may discover that the greatest gift isn't the food you're eating, but a peace that comes from finally being present. And then try to expand that awareness and presence to one meal a day. Not expecting perfection here, but choose a meal that you can eat less distracted. Set your phone to the side, shut off the TV, not because you're trying to be good, but because you're practicing presence. And then ask yourself, what did I notice that I usually miss? Our verse for this episode is Ecclesiastes 9:7, and it says, "Go, eat your food with gladness, drink your wine with a joyful heart." Ecclesiastes tells us to eat with gladness. This verse isn't permission for excess. It's an invitation to receive God's gift with gratitude. Gratitude slows us down. Presence improves your digestion. And when we approach meals with thankfulness instead of fear, food begins to lose its power over us. So today wasn't about perfect mindful eating. It's about remembering that every meal is an opportunity to come back to presence, back to your body, back to delight, back to your taste buds, back to gratitude, back to God's goodness. Next week, we're going to explore one of the biggest obstacles to eating with peace, the inner critic. We'll talk about the food rules and the judgment and the shame scripts that run quietly in the background and how to begin replacing them with truth. I'll see you then. If you tried today's challenge, I'd love to hear what surprised you. Send me a message or tag me on Instagram and finish this sentence. Today I noticed ... Sometimes the smallest observations become the first step towards the big transformation. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you shared it with a friend. Take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram, tag me at Dietitian Jamie, and let's get this message out to more women.